20-metre start finish straight offers plenty of slipstreaming opportunities. Turn 4, a good overtaking hotspot here as well in Sepang. So too is the final corner. Multiple lines available as you attack hard on the brakes into turn 15. The most demanding braking points, well, that are 1, 4 and 15. And around ambient temperatures and surface temperatures of 60 degrees, it's hot, hot, hot ahead of this 20-lap Grand Prix Malaysia. It was hot here last year. What a race between Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin as they fought for the world title. Well, having fired his factory Ducati to pole position, Pecco Bagnaia's topsy-turvy and unpredictable flyaway tour continued here yesterday in Malaysia as he streaked away from the front of the pack, hotly pursued by Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta on the factory KTM. Fermin Aldeguer, who started the sprint in 6th place, his charge towards the podium helped by Joan Mir's exit when the Honda star was 4th. Bagnaia, though, coming over the line to win the sprint by over 2 seconds. Another 2nd place, secures 2nd overall in the championship for the brilliant Alex Marquez. Fermin Aldeguer was 3rd over the line, but a tyre pressure penalty came his way post-sprint, which promoted Pedro Acosta inside the top 3. So having started our overseas tour in Japan a few weeks ago, on the same weekend that his teammate Marc Marquez was crowned MotoGP World Champion, Pecco Bagnaia in Motegi was untouchable, wasn't he? Absolutely on a different level, as he took pole position, as he took a sprint win, and as he then took a Grand Prix victory. Well, he's on course for another treble here today in Malaysia. Probably we should coat over what's happened to Bagnaia in between those 2 brilliant weekends in Mandalika and Australia, where, frankly, by his own admission, it was embarrassing. It was abysmal by the exceptionally high standards of the factory Ducati start. Bagnaia then will once again fire away from pole position. The 28-year-old Italian's 27th pole position in the MotoGP World Championship. 20 laps will be coming your way in just over half an hour's time here in the hottest conditions of the weekend. It's muggy Malaysia, it's scorching hot Malaysia, no question about that, as ambient temperature's not going to be far shy of 35 degrees by the time it's lights out for this round 20 over 20 laps. In the company of Matt Burton, Lewis Sotheby in the commentary box, with Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. The Malaysian fans once again out in force to roar on their MotoGP heroes. Or can the hero of race day 20 be once again Pecco Bagnaia, already a double Sepang winner in the top class, including, of course, his victory in what was arguably the best race of 2024. Certainly the first few laps of that epic battle he had with title rival Jorge Martin. A race winner here also back in 2022 was Bagnaia. Fierce competition, though, will be posed by a couple of other strong Ducatis. Alex Marquez with the shackles off, having secured 2nd place in the championship, and Alex finding his way to the top step of the podium for the 3rd time in his MotoGP career. What about Fermin Aldeguer? Well, he's already won in baking hot conditions on this overseas sweep, hasn't he? In Mandalika a few weeks ago to become the 2nd youngest rider in Premier Class history. In these scorching hot conditions, who will go for the soft rear tyre? Will anybody gamble on the soft rear? Who will go for the medium rear? Well, Jack's got some tight information before the riders leave pit lane. Jack, what are the riders thinking?
Well, quite remarkably, as things stand, it looks like the vast majority of the grid are going to go for the soft rear tyre, which Piero Taramasso said to us earlier on. In those final 2 or 3 laps of the Grand Prix, they expect them to be at 100%, maybe 110% consumption of the tyre. Piero saying none of the teams want to give up that early time at the start of the race where there is a clear deficiency with the medium rear tyre. They would much rather have the soft and just try and manage it to the end. If everybody does go to the soft, it looks like the vast majority going to the grid with it. It's going to make a fascinating race.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. It certainly will make it a little bit more tastier. Some spice added then to this Malaysian Grand Prix. If the majority pick are going for the software, this will be, without question, a time management race. So many riders, of course, in the sprint yesterday when they were able to push and attack harder over the shorter 10-lap format. In the 10 laps, several riders reporting significant big drops with the soft rear tyre. Makes it juicy for us, no question.
Certainly does. What we saw on Friday was in much cooler track conditions, because we had a lot of cloud cover. Track temperature was probably around 20 degrees cooler than it is for the Grand Prix this afternoon. So the medium tyre just would not work. They just couldn't get it fired up and actually exploit the grip from it. So everyone went across to the soft. What that's then meant is that even though maybe the conditions today are better for the medium, a lot of riders have barely ran it at any stage in the weekend and don't have the information on it. And as Jack rightly pointed out, potential time loss and position loss early in the race could negate any benefit you get from the medium later on. Just take Marco Bezzecchi, for instance, back in Australia. Of course, it wasn't down to tyres, but he did find himself in traffic after 2 long lap penalties and didn't ultimately make that time back up. This is the story of Alex Marquez's sprint yesterday. A sprint he admitted he was rather nervous in, with so much on the line, even if second place in the championship has felt like a formality for Alex for a few races now. Eventually won that battle with Pedro Acosta, who fell behind Fermin Aldeguer, but of course regained that third place due to a tyre pressure penalty. He never had anything really for Pecco Bagnaia, but that wasn't really Alex Marquez's priority. He was all about securing the points he needed to take second place in the championship, and with Pecco Bagnaia winning the sprint, second was enough.
A Sepang Madrid connection. Thankfully, some good Wi-Fi in this part of Malaysia to allow Marc Marquez to pass on his immediate congratulations to his brother Alex. What a story, what a journey has been for those two for so many years. A journey that has taken them to the top 2 in the MotoGP World Championship. We grew up together, we had fun together, we worked together, we suffered together, and this year we won together. There's nothing that those two have not seen throughout their Grand Prix careers, and what an accolade it is. Alex then securing second place in the standings, 4th in the Grand Prix here last year from the front row. He'll be home to go at least one better over 20 laps this afternoon. And Fermin Aldeguer, well, there's no question. We know how good he is at managing fading grip in scorching hot condition. Just look what he did, destroyed the field, didn't he, in that recent Indonesian Grand Prix. And there are a lot of people deep inside that Gresini Ducati camp who think Aldeguer has got a great crack at win number 2 here in Malaysia.
Certainly going to have to be careful early on, as Duran Mir wasn't. There's your confirmation of the penalty he received yesterday, which took him from 3rd down to 7th. Certainly the fastest rider on track at the end of the sprint, which over double the distance this afternoon will certainly bode well for him. Of course, a new livery you might be able to spot for the Gresini duo. You can see the slightly darker shade of blue on the leathers of Fermin Aldeguer. It's also a darker blue motorcycle, but still very easy to pick the Gresini duo apart. And you feel those 3 riders in the front of picture, Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer, in all probability the winner is going to come from one of those 3.
Rookie of the year, and to celebrate it was Rookie of the... Yeah, come on, nice one, Fermin Aldeguer. That bronze medal eventually was going to be stripped from around his neck and placed in the hands of Pedro Acosta. But it has been a stellar campaign from Aldeguer. He has delivered on all the promise and potential which Ducati saw in him at Prix 2024 Moto2. At times, it's fair to say, this weekend, not looking particularly over-enamoured with his Sepang experience in 2025 has been Fabio Quartararo. He's certainly not lacking support, as we can see that fan in the grandstands going absolutely potty for Fabio. He's got a smile. Finally, he breaks a smile on his face. Quartararo then, 6 he was in the Grand Prix here last year, which remarkably was the only top 6 for a Japanese bike in the whole of 2024. Well, he's got a marriage proposal as well. We'll find out. Maybe we'll ask him after this 20-lap
well,
Grand
he's given
Prix.
a thumbs up, so maybe she got the answer she was looking for. Fabio Quartararo, will he be one of those going for the soft rear tyre, which we understand could well be the majority of this field? Pit lane is now open, and it will be open for the next 5 minutes as they head round to the grid. 20 laps of action coming up. If you're just joining us for this MotoGP Grand Prix, there was a substantial delay earlier on in Moto3 due to a serious accident on the sliding lap involving Noah Dekvila and Jose Antonio Rueda, which means we are yet to see the Moto2 battle. That will follow MotoGP at 4:30 local time.
Plenty of Bez fans out in force here in Sepang, including one of them who's got the absolutely awesomely named Bez Lightyear. Love that. Superb. This was a move that Bez made on what was an excellent recovery, actually. 14th on the grid to 7th on the road. Pushed up inside the top 6 after the Aldeguer penalty. Had to do a lot of work for that 7th place, didn't he? Moves on Zarco, moves on Digia, moves on Marini, moves that are not easy to make in modern day MotoGP. Ultimately, Luca Marini later on in the sprint was to suffer his first DNF of 2025, his first crash, believe it or not, of 2025 as well. Pol Espargaro, another victim of the Bezzecchi charge through the pack. Bez with the ice vest on, trying to keep himself cool at the end of that sprint yesterday. He's going to go double the distance over 20 laps this afternoon. So then, we believe, as Jack told us, having spoken to some Michelin insiders, that the majority of the riders are going to take the punt. They're going to go for the gamble. They're going to try and make that soft go the distance over 20 laps. Certainly will make the Grand Prix interesting, won't it? Pedro Acosta then, promoted to third in yesterday's sprint, once again by far the leading light for KTM. Can he repeat that podium in the Grand Prix here this afternoon? We've got the boss, Aki Ayo, who joins Jack.
Yeah, I've got Aki with me in the back of the KTM box. Aki, I understand the vast majority of the field are maybe looking at using the soft rear tyre. What are KTM thinking?
At the moment, seems like our plan is to go with the same tyres as yesterday, but of course, many times the final decision come on the grid, but I really feel that majority on the grid is with the soft one today. Maybe front is a bit more mixed.
We saw yesterday, even in the sprints, there was an obvious drop for Pedro. He's had his tyre troubles over recent weeks. For those on the KTM, how much of a risk is it to go for the soft? Do you think you can get it to the end of the race?
Yeah, I think everyone, all the manufacturers has tested, let's say, medium also this week, and still after testing seems like majority is soft. So sometimes the difference is smaller, sometimes bigger. So for sure, it's really a race to manage.
As a result, is it a bit of a race of survival for Pedro?
For sure, I believe for everyone, of course, here in these conditions, it's a little bit with this, let's say, compounds what is available. It's the race for survival, but of course, long race is always a little bit different story as a sprint, and of course, you need to prepare and manage in different way.
Thanks, Aki. Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Aki Ayo. A tyre management mission on the way then in Malaysia, coming up for 23 riders. Just a bit of housekeeping if you're joining us for the first time this weekend. No Marc Marquez, replaced once again by Michele Pirro. No Jorge Martin, sadly, ongoing with that shoulder injury he suffered in Motegi. He's replaced by Lorenzo Savadori. Pol Espargaro back once again, replacing Maverick Vinales. And Augusto Fernandez, a Yamaha wildcard, getting in more key development on the new V4-powered YZR M1.
Interesting to expect a tyre management race in light of KTM, because managing tyres is something they manage with great difficulty. Whether it's going to play into their hands that others will also be on that soft tyre, or whether they're in further trouble, well, we'll have to wait and see. Pedro Acosta going from 5th on the grid, Pol Espargaro 12th, and Ea Bastianini's in 19th, one place behind Brad Binder. As Pecco Bagnaia pulls to his customary pole position, I think we've given up trying to predict or work out what Pecco Bagnaia is going to do from one weekend to the next. But the last time he took pole position and won the sprint, he did then back that up with Grand Prix victory. It's a third consecutive Sepang pole for Pecco. Can he back that up with a third Sepang MotoGP win? He's had 5 pole, sprint win and Grand Prix win trebles previously in his career. Well set, certainly, to at least fight for that 6. Let's go down onto the grid then. Congratulations once again to our 2025 Rookie of the Year, Fermin Aldeguer, on the second row with Jack.
Yeah, Fermin was fantastic yesterday, of course, on the sprint podium, but unfortunately that penalty cost him. Fermin, this looks like it's going to be a real race of survival with everybody on the soft rear tyre. How do you feel ahead of it?
Yeah, for sure. Today the key of the race will be the manage of the rear tyre. I think the last part of the race will be very difficult and much slower than the first laps, but nothing. This is one of our stronger points. We try to manage in the best way as possible, and after finish in the best result as possible, because we did an incredible weekend and we have to be super happy.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much to Fermin Aldeguer. Congratulations once again to him for an incredible year, which saw him crowned Rookie of the Year yesterday. We just saw the grid graphic there with the tyre choices. The only anomaly on the front row of the grid was Alex Marquez and the Gresini Ducati, who clearly was on the soft front, soft rear tyre. Pecco Bagnaia from Poland, Frankie Morbidelli third, either side of the Spaniard. As it stands right now, that could change, of course. The two Italians, medium front, soft rear.
Yeah, the majority are soft. We've got Alex Rins, who's also medium front, Luca Marini and Raul Fernandez on the medium front. So too is Miguel Oliveira and Lorenzo Savadori further back. So the vast majority of the field are going for essentially the same tyre combination that they ran in the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, you can see a worn front coming out of Frankie Morbidelli on the sighting lap there. That will now be changed over to what we expect to be then a brand new medium front tyre for Morbidelli. Just the second front row of the year for the 30-year-old Italian, who has very happy memories of Sepang, a Moto2 World Champion crowned here. So too, of course, was Alex Marquez in 2019, and so too was this rider on screen, who celebrated one of his two Moto2 successes here in Sepang, and he did it in spectacular fashion with a double backflip with his brother a few years ago, back in 2016. Still loving you 46. Well, it is, of course. We can't really go through the race day programme here in Sepang without mentioning that race, that Grand Prix 2015 Sepang, the clash, one of the biggest clashes of personalities, talents and egos we've ever seen. Valentino Rossi versus Marc Marquez, all the way back in 2015 in what proved to be a very controversial and pivotal Malaysian Grand Prix a decade ago.
New tyres been brought to the grid too for Johan Zarco. Yeah, given that you're going to need all the rubber you can get through this 20-lap Grand Prix, everyone, of course, taking some old, worn tyres to the grid. Well, old tyres is Bastianini's forte, really, as he sits in some much-needed shade just underneath us in the grandstand. Bastianini 19th on the grid, but if you cast your minds back to Australia, he qualified 20th and was inside the top 10 at the end of both the sprint and the Grand Prix. He then came across the line yesterday in the final points position in 9th place. So one thing you can rest assured in is that if he's still in the race, Bastianini's going to be going forwards.
Feels like this is a tailor-made Grand Prix for Bastianini. He's not known as the MotoGP tyre whisperer for nothing, isn't he? Whether it was on the Ducati back in the day or on the current KTM, he still does seem to be the master of still being able to get a lot of performance and speed out of a rapidly deteriorating rear tyre. So too, of course, Fermin Aldeguer, that falls back into that category. Well, Alex Marquez was the only outlier on that front row grid in terms of the front tyre choice. He was going soft. I wonder if that might have changed. Jack, back down to you.
Yeah, that's the least of his concerns right now. You might have heard in the back of shot, very, very rarely does a MotoGP bike get started on the grid. Normally, it only does if there's some kind of problem, and it seems to be there's a slight electronic issue potentially with Alex Marquez's crew. There's a couple of official Ducati personnel coming over and taking a look at the laptop. There doesn't seem to be too much frantic work. They are putting the brand new tyres into this one as things stand, but I'll stay with this and just try and work out exactly what's happening, because there's something out of the ordinary going on right now.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. I mean, these are intense, high-stress situations anyway, aren't they, when everything's running smoothly down on the grid. Last thing that Alex Marquez needs is he's about to power away from second here on the front row in Sepang.
Well, the pressure is removed from Alex Marquez, of course, having clinched the runner-up spot in the championship yesterday, but he would have wanted to, with the benefit of that pressure being removed, to just go for it today and challenge for victory. Of course, Alex Marquez has already taken a couple of Grand Prix victories this season, both on Spanish tarmac in Jerez and in Barcelona, and he would relish the opportunity to go head-to-head with Pecco Bagnaia from the front of the field today. Raul Fernandez, our most recent Grand Prix winner, Phillip Island winner 7 days ago. Feels like it's going to take something absolutely extraordinary for Raul Fernandez to go back-to-back this weekend. The Aprilia not just gelling with this Sepang circuit, nor the rear tyre options we have here.
Fernandez, 76 starting Phillip Island. It's the 7th longest wait in history for a first MotoGP success. Aleix Espargaro, 200 starts. Danilo Petrucci, 124 starts. Johan Zarco on this current grid, 120 starts. Cal Crutchlow, 98 starts. Alex Marquez on the front row, 94 starts. And Jack Finley, 92 starts. course, the only riders that took longer in Grand Prix history to find their first MotoGP success. Bezzecchi, medium front tyre.
Yeah, that's a change since he initially made his choice, or the choice was communicated to us, as there's a major fly past on the main straight, which is why you can hear a massive roar, and we've got smoke enveloping us outside our Coventry box window. There is the aerial show, providing the aerial entertainment before the best motorcycle racers in the world begin to produce some fireworks over 20 laps in just under a quarter of an hour.
Well, we're sat about a mile and a half, 2 miles maximum from the nearby Kuala Lumpur International Airport. A lot of the paddock flying home this evening, including my good self, but I hope it's on a rather bigger plane than that one that's currently hovering overhead here in Malaysia. Marco Bezzecchi has to factor in, doesn't he? He has to factor in. Bezzecchi, 14th on the grid. So many riders yesterday in what was a pretty intense and heated battle for the bottom end of the points when placed in the sprint. We're reporting big issues with a ballooning front tyre temperature and a ballooning front tyre pressure as well. If you get my mid-pack here, you're going to be in a whole world of pain managing that front tyre. Aleix Espargaro, good to see him back, supporting, of course, his brother Paul, who's doing such another sterling job replacing the injured Maverick Vinales. Aleix is not here as a tourist, he's not here as a holiday maker. Well, he might be today, and not just supporting his brother, but he has got some busy work next week. He once again throws his leg over the 2026 prototype Honda RC213V. He's spent a lot of his 2025 already so far here in Sepang, has Aleix.
You mentioned the difficulty that riders have when they're in traffic and the hot air that's not only hitting them but their front tyre. That's part of the reason why Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin were so busy battling each other last year, because they wanted that clear track. Let's get an update from the grid. Is all okay with Alex Marquez's Ducati? Michele Massini's with Jack.
Yeah, it does seem everything's okay. Michele, just to confirm, everything okay with Alex's bike?
Yeah, at the moment I confirm that the Alex bike is okay.
That's great to hear. For both riders, this is obviously going to be all about tyre management, trying to get that rear tyre to the end. Looks as though Alex with the soft front, is that the case still?
Yeah, I hope that we take the right choice for the race, and we'll see if we can manage well the last 8-9 laps.
Okay, thanks Michele, good luck.
Yeah, thanks Jack, thanks to Michele Massini. The good news is then, as far as Alex Marquez is concerned, whatever sort of tech gremlin concerns they had pre-race, they seem to have evaporated in these sizzling hot conditions. Has got a bit of a tweak in his neck, that Alex, after a pretty heavy crash in FP1 on Friday morning at turn 7. Can he be a pain in the neck for Pecco Bagnaia's hopes of another Sepang success here this afternoon?
Test riders unite on their way to the front of the grid for the national anthem, which is coming up in a couple of minutes' time. Pol Espargaro and Michele Pirro, you saw there. Michele Pirro in for Marc Marquez, of course. Now, there is a test being scheduled sometime between now and Portimao in Jerez, involving the World Superbike Championship runner-up Nicolo Bulega, which could potentially lead to Bulega appearing at the final couple of Grand Prix of the season. So this may yet be the last time we see Pirro in a Grand Prix this season.
Frankie Morbidelli just having a chat with our British TV colleagues down in what is going to be a scorching hot pit lane. Fabio Di Gianantonio trying to keep himself as cool as possible before what are going to be 20 of the toughest laps of 2025 coming your way. Alex Marquez, that's not a bad tactic, is it? Grab an umbrella and just keep yourself as shaded as you possibly can. Fermin Aldeguer, well, he's had his trials and tribulations so far this weekend. A crash in Q1 at turn 4. A lap time when he was fastest in Q1, which would have put him on the front row of the grid in Q2. And then, of course, after that crash at turn 4 in Q1, he then crashed the Ducati at the back of the garage in what was a pretty eventful 10 minutes or so to complete that opening qualifying session. The riders then come to the front of the grid for the traditional pre-race ceremony. We've seen that pilot, the stunt pilot, working wonders throughout this weekend on the grid as fans, young and old, enjoying all the pre-race atmosphere. Not be doing too many of those spins, you'll be very dizzy by the time you stop. Trying to put the MotoGP rivals in a spin from pole position will be Pecco Bagnaia shortly. There you can see that magnificent Tower of Champions on the right-hand side of your picture. Marc Marquez, of course, adding his name to that magnificent trophy just a few weeks ago at the Mobility Resort over in Motegi. Marquez sadly sidelined and ruled out through that shoulder injury suffered in Mandalika until 2026. So as the riders seek shade on the grid, we're going to take a pause here in the commentary box as we await the Malaysian national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Malaysian national anthem.
Negaraku, tanah tumpahnya darahku, rakyat hidup bersatu dan maju, rahmat bagi Tuhan kurniakan Raja kita selamat bertata, rahmat bagi Tuhan kurniakan Raja kita selamat bertata.
Brilliant. A beautiful, a lovely rendition of the Malaysian national anthem by Ahmad Dayan Saiful Anwar. As then the countdown to our 20th chapter in 2025 well and truly underway. They certainly bring the passion, don't they, the Malaysian fans? This is a classic, iconic Grand Prix venue, isn't it? Hard to think it's all the way back in 1999 now since we first came racing here at the Sepang International Circuit. 15 times at this great venue there's been world champions crowned, including that rider on your screens back in 2018 when Pecco Bagnaia prevailed in the Moto2 world title chase. Now then, Fabio Quartararo, can he put the factory Yamaha into contention for the top 5 maybe in this Sepang Grand Prix? Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Mario Meregali. Who's with Jack?
Mayo, with everybody having to manage the tyres in the opening part of this race, could that make it an opportunity for you guys?
For us, it's going to be a really tough race for everybody because, as you can imagine, already these conditions are not helpful for them, and they have to manage the situation with their soft tire that will make their life even harder. And it's not also a question to manage the tire at the beginning of the race, because there is a risk that you have to try to manage the tire from the beginning to the end, and we expect that at the end, however, the tire will be finished.
Good luck, hope it's a good one for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Yamaha boss Mario Meregali. Yeah, you've got to get to the finish with what's probably going to be a finished set of Michelin tyres. Fabio Quartararo coming as late as possible to jump on his Wisedar M1 machine. Still in the welcome shade that is being offered by the main grandstand, one of 2 main grandstands here in Sepang that flank the 2 long straights. Alex Marquez then, pre-race dramas aside. Can Alex win the MotoGP Grand Prix for the first time outside of home turf? He has won a sprint here before in Malaysia, did so back in 2023. Can anybody stop Pecco Bagnaia from completing, well, starting and finishing this overseas tour with a treble? It's really hard to imagine, isn't it? I mean, we said yesterday in comedy, the curious case of Pecco Bagnaia. It was 8 days ago at Phillip Island in Australia where he crossed the line in the sprint 32 seconds behind Marco Bezzecchi. That followed a sprint in Mandalika where he was 29 seconds behind Bez and then crashed out of last in the Grand Prix. I mean, talk about a roller coaster 5 weeks and 4 rounds for the Italian.
Yeah, when he's good, he's almost unbeatable, but when he's not, he is beaten by just about everybody on track. It appears we've got the best of Pecco Bagnaia here this weekend, but he's well aware, as we are, that this is not going to be an easy 20 laps of action for him. Certainly the start, the first couple of laps are going to be all important to maintain that track position. As mentioned a moment ago, that battle between Bagnaia and Martin last year was so aggressive, partly because they were fighting for a world championship, but also because they wanted that track position. They didn't want a rider ahead of them putting hot air on their front tyre and making their pressure go through the roof.
It's going to be a big consideration. It will be a big factor at play in this Grand Prix. Most fans braving it in the blazing sunshine at the moment. That's a used rear tyre that Pecco Bagnaia would have used to have come to this grid here in Sepang. A winner already in MotoGP 31 times. That put him level, of course, with Dani Pedrosa and Eddie Lawson. There's now only 7 riders in MotoGP history that have won more Grand Prix than Pecco. And they are some of the great and good, aren't they, of MotoGP? Giacomo Agostini, Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, Mick Doohan, Roy Lorenzo, Casey Stoner and Mike Hayward. So he could jump ahead of Dani Pedrosa and Eddie Lawson in the all-time winners list. Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer and co will have a big part to say in proceedings coming up in a couple of minutes' time as the grid then starts to clear. On the front row for just the second time in 2025, it's Frankie Morbidelli, a Moto2 world champion, crowned right here back in 2017. Points in all 5 in his MotoGP career, having secured second in the World Championship yesterday in the sprint. Alex Marquez goes from second on the grid, but it's Pecco Bagnaia looking to complete yet another dominant double. Can he do the business from pole here in Sepang?